Bobby Sparks, welcome to Berlin. How are you?
I'm doing great. How about yourself?
Yeah, I'm fine. I'm allowed to talk to you about your new CD, Schizophrenia. And I listened to your CD, and I have to ask, where does the title come from? But it fits.
Okay, I came up with the concept because I've been working on this record for a very long time, and I ended up with so many styles of music, and from going this way to that way to this way and that way. So when I was listening to it, I was like, man, this sounds like 10 records put together in one. So the first song is called Schizophrenia because it's kind of goes all over. So I'm like, you know what? This is a schizophrenic record. It's more like gumbo. A little bit of this, a little bit of that, a little bit of that, a little bit of everything, you know.
It's a kind of colored book of your life, musical life.
Yes.
An audiobook, let's say it this way. So I read when I was preparing the official text and in the German text, and there they say it's a collection of songs of music.
Yes.
Is it a collection, or was a plan behind that? Did you plan to bring out this album for a long time, or?
I think it was a little bit of both because I started writing for this record like 1998, 99. But back in those days, I was thinking I was doing this type of record, but I was always thinking that I was going to get some record company that was going to, come give me 50,000, 100,000 euros or dollars, and I was going to get to make this type of record. But over a period of time, it never happened because all the labels I talked to, they was like, it's too this, it's too that. So I just kind of figured that I just kept writing. And so I kept getting I kept learning. And the more you learn, your music changes. So it's just the music I kept going forward. So, and I kept getting more creative. So I kind of decided that, you know what? Around in 2016, 2017, that, okay, now I'm going to start, the process of finishing it and picking and choosing different songs that work. So, so pretty much that's kind of how the creative process became.
Why did it? So you said, no. Which label did you find? How did it come to into existence? That finally was the point where they said, "We do the CD. We will release it."
You said what now?
How did you? Or when did it happen? How did it happen that suddenly you found a label? Where is it released? Your CD at which label?
Well, I decided to I decided to do it myself, and I kind of always wanted to have my own label, which is Black Note Records. But then I still wanted to, reach out to Joachim Becker because he's always has a big history of putting out music here in Europe and in other places too. And I met him 10 years ago when I was out here playing with Dennis Chambers and Dean Brown. So I just remember buying a lot of records that Joachim was a part of. So it was kind of reached out to him and then first of all, and then pretty much I really wanted to focus on the European market because the European market, they appreciate music more than the States. But yeah, they do. And the United States, just kind of maybe looking, maybe just focusing in on the European market now. And that's kind of, hope to answer that part of the question.
Wow, the European market, that's very interesting. But as I said, it's a colored book of your musical life. Normally, I can prepare by interviews, and people write about you, but when I prepared, I've got the impression that you are happy to play your music.
Oh yes,
And that's
yeah,
all.
Yes, yes. Because as I've been a sideman for since I was 16, 17 years old. So of course I tell this story all the time. I play with a band called Snarky Puppy, and I kind of started playing with them around 2007, 2008, kind of in their beginning process. But the beautiful thing, what I learned about them at that time, they were the age where most of them were right out of college, 22, 23 years old. And I realized that when I was 21, 22 years old, I was already working professionally. So basically, but I was making good money. When I come back home, I was playing every night in the club, making money. So so during this whole process, I never built anything for myself. So the whole thing, I'm building other people's careers. I was a part of Kirk Franklin. Kirk Franklin, who's a gospel artist in the United States. I helped build his career. Then I started playing with, Les McCann, part of the original band of the RH Factor with Roy Hargrove. We built that, Then I was with Marcus Miller, So all of this whole period of time, I'm just kind of I'm building everybody else's career, and I never did anything for myself. So moving forward, when I was playing with Snarky Puppy, I just saw how they were doing it. These kids, they were going around to different clubs. They play, didn't get a hotel room. I wasn't used to that. I always had a 6-star hotel wherever I went. So I wasn't used to sleeping on floors at a club. Bringing my sleeping bag. So it just kind of taught me that. That realistically, I should have done this years ago instead of now. I'm a 45-year-old man with a family, so I should have done this earlier. But
But the time of your life that formed you, that made you, and you are different, and you learned a lot being a sideman and playing with others. The way you're talking about, I think it had to be this way. You never thought about having a career of your own. You wanted to play,
Yes.
go out and play and play
That's
and
right.
play.
That's right. I always,
Sorry, before I have to say one last sentence. And what I read when I prepared for this, that the guys, I don't know who from Snarky Puppy said, thanks God he's going out, he's recording his first CD. It took us so long.
Yeah.
They try to push you.
well, the problem is when you're younger, you don't have any. As I got older, I got more responsibilities. So the more responsibilities you get, you kind of have to stay on the road to pay a bill. So now, at 20, 21, 22 years old, I bought my first house. And, and it was a nice house. So because of stuff like that, I had to stay on the road to make money, to make money. And then, you put your creative on the back burner, So it just kind of happened. Then got older, then got married, had kids, So the whole thing was, okay, my first thing was to let's stay out on the road and make money with different people, and then when I'm not doing anything, I'll work on my own record, and then it got to a point was like I gotta finish this record because everybody's that I'm playing my record to was going crazy. Everybody's like, man, this is the baddest shit ever. So I'm like, okay, well, people like it. I just kind of decided that I'm gonna finish it.
I'm thinking about that, and what I do, it's a hobby. I don't have to live from that. I'm an old man. I've got retired, so I don't live from that. But I'm allowed to do what I love, and in a way, that's what you did yourself. You learned so much, and this when I listen to your music, the CD, it's so colorful. It's full of different colors. I told you, a color book of music. And so different styles that wouldn't have existed if you had chosen another way. I'm sure of that, because you know what you love and you want everything.
Well, my journey in life. I'm a student of music, so I grew up. I grew up loving every style of music. You know, people ask me, who do you listen to? I say I love Miles Davis just as much as I love Jimi Hendrix. I love, Sly Stone just as much as I love Rick James or Prince. I love classical music just as much as I love, any other style of music, gospel music. I grew up on James Cleveland and Walter Hawkins. So my journey in music, I'm a student and I'm a fan of so many people from, George Duke to Herbie Hancock to Jimmy Smith. I grew up on Jimmy Smith. My father was a jazz musician, so he had me listening to Count Basie, Duke Ellington, Sonny Stitt, Sonny Rollins. My mother she's a jazz singer, but she always played organ and piano at the church. So she had me listening to James Cleveland, Margaret Duro, and some of the great older gospel. So I was always a student, that's kind of, so when you get this style, I'm influenced by all of these people.
That doesn't end, I think. You will always be a student in one way. You're a pro, you're a very good pro, you're really fantastic at your instrument, but I think you will always be a student. You will always learn something new, you will always hear something you didn't hear before, or something that gets important for you because you have new experience. I think we always are traveling, our life goes on. I think you are really good if you stay curious.
Yeah, absolutely. And what I try to do, I always try to use my imagination. And at some point, I know Marcus Miller, you used to always say this, and it's awesome. As much as I love all of the artists that have come before me, at some point you have to put your heroes down, and you have to sit on the side of the bed and imagine yourself of your own style and what you want to create, because if you don't do that, you're just another musician that you sound like someone else. Or
that's a question I wanted to ask. So you had an idea for your song and you waited till you got the right musicians for this. Sometimes you need a star. Yeah, we all need it. But to get the right musicians.
Yes.
Don't forget the microphone.
Yes. So the musicians that are on my record, I analyze musicians and I watch them thoroughly. When they play on different records or in my mind, I figure out who they are. And basically, when I'm writing these songs, I go, Marcus Miller needs to be on this song. Dennis Chambers needs to be on this song. And maybe, Hiram Bullock needs to be on this song, or Dean Brown, or, that's kind of how I put together this record. I never had a budget for this record. So the way I put this record together, I would plan it out. I would start the beats together out on an MPC 60. Then later on in Logic, and I put the songs together. Then I would send it out to different people who I felt fit the song. And a lot of times with Marcus Miller, we were on the road, so I'd have my Pro Tools and I just go to his hotel room. And I say, hey man, play on this. Come on. You ain't got to learn, just play. He'd be like, okay, hook it up, play. Next day I might sing Dean Brown. Hey man, play on this in a hotel room. So a lot of this was in the hotel room, Now if I would have had a, budget, then we could have got an electric lady in New York and then fly everybody in, put everybody up in the hotel. But I never had that, so I kind of had to send stuff out. And then the people that live in Dallas or Houston, we would just hook up and find a studio in Dallas or Houston. But for the most part, everyone on my record, I sent them out the files. They played it, sent it back to me.
I must come back. You said you just play for music, then later playing with Snarky Puppy, you learned a lot, but somehow just playing your music, never thinking about being famous, making money, you got famous. Because otherwise, those people wouldn't have said, yes, sure. And you wouldn't have said, yes, sure, I play with you. For me, it's a kind of honor. You have such a standing, they know you, and they didn't think, yeah, sure, it's cool, man, I play with you.
Wow, that's amazing. I never thought of it like that. But I just always never thought about being famous or anything. But it's an honor. I've just always been a student, a guy that admires so many musicians, and I just wanted to play music and be the best musician I could ever be.
Now it's a wonderful point to ask some of my standards. And normally I ask every record a special, and was a special on this CD. So I can't ask you that doesn't work out because it's his first record. But if you look back and there's so many wonderful things you faced, recording, mixing, planning the CD, writing songs. Is there something you're proud of where you say, wow, that worked out? Is there something, if you look back, I'm sure there's several points, but 1, 2 things where you say, oh, it's so cool that worked out?
Well, yes, it's a lot of things that I hear that I could have done better. But for the most part, I had a great team that helped me out. I have a brother in Dallas named Rod Stigger, and we're childhood friends. And I kind of, in the process, when I had a studio in 2004, 2005, and he would just come over and just hang out. So basically, I kind of taught him how to work Pro Tools, and he became this awesome engineer. And it started like press this note, and then I'd go outside and go to the piano and play. And then so by the end of the day, he kind of had it. He was patching everything in. So it started with him, and then every day he'd come over and help me, And, I didn't really have a lot of money to pay him or anything, but he would just come over and just hang out. So it starts with him, and then he got to the point where he engineered 80% of the record, so I'm giving him, pretty much credit because the sound of the record is because of him. And then I have a lot of other friends that mixed it. Good friend of mine named Basie Bob Brockman. Basie Bob Brockman, he did all the Bad Boy earlier records. He did, Easy Mo B, New Flavor in Your Ear, all the hip hop stuff from the 90s. Mary J. Blige, just numerous stuff. And then there's another guy named Nick Hard. He mixed 5 or 6 songs. He does all the Snarky records, the last 2 or 3 Snarky records. And there's another friend of mine that we work with Kirk Franklin together. His name is Chris Godby. And Chris Godby really made this thing happen because he mixed about 12 songs. And, he didn't charge me a dime or anything, It just, so basically I'm giving those 3 guys, the 4 guys, pretty much credit for the sound of the record.
The people love you. Yeah, the people love you somewhere. Otherwise, we wouldn't have helped you. Now, I want you, before we started, oh no, I have to talk into this camera. And today is Bobby Sparks the second. Do I have to
Yes,
say
Bobby Sparks the second.
the second, talking to us about his new album, Schizophrenia, that will be out in March. And now, this is the question I always have to ask. I want you, why do we all have to buy your CD?
You have to buy the CD because hopefully, because I need some money. Nah, but realistically, I tried to put out a record with integrity. Pretty much, really, I've worked hard to put out a good record. I've been so disappointed with records, with a lot of records within the last 20 years, and I wanted to put together something that will maybe get everybody to the promised land, will maybe inspire everyone to do great records now. I've tried to use orchestral stuff, try to make it, let's bring back the strings, let's bring back the horns, let's bring back how music used to be, 30, 40 years ago, like how Barry White and, everybody, how music was, how Bob James, used to make records, just symphony, I just think that if we can bring that back, musicians, more musicians will have work, more, and maybe hopefully that the value of music, people will value music. I might not be able to do it by myself, but maybe if my record can, if Beyonce or Kanye West or someone listens to this record, it might inspire someone to go, you know what? I want to do something like that, and then it changes. Hopefully it can change a lot of things. So now musicians will be able to get more work. People will respect music more, hopefully. So that's, realistic. That's why I really, really push to do this record this way,
Wow. And you want to change the world a bit.
I want to try to change the world, change music, inspire. I want to inspire a lot of people to do music with excellence. Maybe we can get record labels to start giving artists, money so we can make records the right way. So I don't have to, so we can get everyone in one studio, and record it like, it should be recorded instead of, the way I had to do it. I had to do it the hard way. So
Before I start asking other questions, one last for the album, for me, your CD. It's very different songs. For you, what is connecting all those songs? What do they have in common? You, sure, your music. But what is there in Germany a rote Faden, a red line that connects all those songs for you? Is there something, or didn't you think about that?
no, I really didn't. I really didn't think about that. But I did think about trying to put. I have so many songs, so there are like maybe 80 to 90 more songs. So basically with this record, we just kind of chose certain ones to just kind of put on this record to just try to maybe balance it out so it wouldn't be too out of, because I have electronic stuff that, I have, reggae stuff, I have straight ahead jazz, but with this one we didn't want to make it too crazy, where people just couldn't, be like, so they wouldn't be like that. So we tried to do a pretty much good balance.
A secret. If I listen to your records or this kind of music, my wife always asks me, please take on your headphones. Don't play it loud.
Yeah. Well, like I say, that this schizophrenia record is more of an advanced record, so where it's kind of for true music lovers. Not everybody's not a music lover, but I did do another record that is kind of maybe more for passive listeners, or I'm not gonna say passive listeners, but kind of more elevator music. That's more, kind of
Raw stuff.
right, right, right.
I grew up with jazz rock. Mahavishnu, John McLaughlin, Mahavishnu Orchestra, Chick Corea returned before his return to Ever, and it was a fascinating adventure. There was a wonderful melody, there were rock elements, and there was jazz, and then they came back. What Snarky Puppy does in a way that reminds me very much of this. All of you do the same kind of music, and this is the spirit or the kind of music I grew up with. And suddenly I told, when it was called fusion, for me something missed. I lost this music and it changed. It got into a shape somehow. It wasn't raw anymore.
Yeah, I think music kind of changed. In the '70s, you had the Weather Report, you had Chick Corea, you had the Headhunters. It was all fusion, but all of these groups sounded totally different. They all sounded totally different, and which was beautiful for music. But it was the same type of thing. Pretty much all of the songs had great melodies, like you said. They all spoke, but the playing was great. But I think as the period of time kept going forward, everybody just kept maybe trying different things, But pretty much, the height of musical was probably in that period, the '70s. That was probably the highest period of creativity, and it was still to the point where average people could understand it.
There were bands like, let's say, Emerson, Lake and Palmer. I don't know. They filled stadiums.
Absolutely.
There, and today
Absolutely.
everybody's running away if I play this music.
But see, the whole thing was people love music, and realistically, that was the height of music. You got to think. You in New York in the '70s, you could go to a concert, you could see Earth, Wind and Fire, you could see Weather Report, you could see Bob Dylan, and you could see, Willie Nelson, all in one setting. Those days are gone. Like in American radio stations, they played everyone. They played the Beatles. They played the next song would be Sly Stone. Next song would be the Herbie Hancock and the Headhunters. So it was more so everybody was exposed to everyone's music. It wasn't just a black or white music or this or that. Everybody loved music. So that's kind of how it was.
So we're in the midst of a discussion. And my theory or something, I feel that you're a musician and you're living on a different continent. I think that even nowadays where everything's formatted, everybody knows what is perfect, you have to be this way. But on the other hand, suddenly this free spirit of the late 60s, early 70s is coming back. New bands are coming up, they have the sound of this time, but with their own spirit. There's a lot of freedom in it. They just do what they want. They play their old tunes, but with a point of view from today. Does it happen in the music, jazz music, in the States as well? There are a lot like you.
Yeah. Well, I think we're kind of getting back to that period. Like I say, Snarky's a great group that has really made their way. And you have great things that Robert Glasper's doing. Robert Glasper has kind of taken, this whole. He's kind of taken jazz to a different level. People are really loving, and what he's done, taking hip hop and other kind of styles, mixing it up, creating another style, which is as what we're supposed to do as musicians, because nobody wants to keep going backwards, because at the end of the day, like if you just keep going backwards, you're just doing what Bud Powell did. You're just doing, and then you really don't get your place in history as musicians. we want to we want to keep moving forward so we can have our place in history, you know. So, you know, and you have other great musicians that's trying to, you know, I guess make their own way, you know, in history. And now it seems like that the people are being more responsive because you got to think in the United States. I don't know how it is. It's all music has always been great over here, but in the United States, we've had a problem which was called smooth jazz. Smooth jazz kind of ruined music in the United States. I don't diss it, but you know, the problem was the music. It just took everything out of the music and it made the people dumb. It was just elevator music. So, and pretty much smooth jazz was just R&B. You know, it's just instrumental R&B. So most of the people were middle-aged people, and you know, to play jazz and to play real music, creative music, you have to use your brain. So the average person, they don't want to use their brain. If you work all day, you work at this job all day, that means when you come home and go to a jazz concert, you have to use your brain. But with smooth jazz, you don't have to use your brain. You know, you can just you know you're gonna play somebody on stage just playing some Earth, Wind and Fire song or playing some, and it's played by a saxophonist, and then people go, "Oh, that's my song." I remember when I was in high school. This was when me and my husband or me and my wife used to. This was our song, you know. So it just smooth jazz made people lazy, you know, and where going to see Wynton Marsalis at the that was too much. It was too much, for people. So I say that to say,
But I have to ask because I'm not a musician, and if I listen to music, it's my heart. It's not my brain that's listening. You say you have to use your brain. What do you mean by that?
Because to listen to creative music, you have to sit and analyze what's going on for the average person. You follow me? So that means if this song, I have to figure out what the melody is. I have to figure out what the solo, what's going on, because it's but to analyze it, you have to use your brain. It's just like looking at a great painting, and if you don't know what that painting is doing, you have to figure it out. That means so using your brain, you have to. It's tiring, but if it's just a simple melody, I'm like, okay, yeah, that's simple. That I don't have to use my brain. I can sing along with it, But the Europeans and people outside the United States, they don't deal with that because there's an appreciation for the art. It's art, where people in the United States don't really appreciate the art like that. They do appreciate it, but they don't appreciate it when they, American culture is when, people go to a concert mainly to show off their fine clothes and
More a kind of consuming.
Yeah, it's more it's kind of selfish, like, So it's like when you walk in the club with my wife, I want everybody in the club to see us. That's the culture where nobody in the club can really enjoy what's going on stage because we're trying to figure if everybody's watching us. It's kind of like a selfish culture.
I don't know whether if you played in Germany in small clubs tonight, you will be astonished. The people go there because they love the music. And when Bill Lawrence, we'll meet later, the people love the music. I would love to discuss about that with you for hours, but we are not allowed. We don't have the time because I think I don't want to analyze. I want to have fun. I have to think about it. If I talk to you, I have to analyze it.
I'm talking about the American culture.
Yeah. No, in a different way. whatever it is, just take it and see where it takes you. Music has to touch me. For me, good music is music that touches me, that comes from the heart. I don't want to analyze. Good music takes me on a journey.
That's right. It should. It should because it's art. It doesn't matter what the art is. Like I can, even if I went to a concert and it was a tuba and a banjo, I could sit there and enjoy it, long as it's good. But for more people, for some people they can't because they would rather hear, like in the United States, they would rather hear.
Same here as well. Same here as well.
Okay, well,
We have both sides. We have both sides.
Well, see, I've never, as many places I've played here in Europe, it's a, we can play differently. We can play freely here, and we can feel that the audience is appreciating, even whatever when we're stretching to the point where, sometime the shit that I'm playing, sometime it works, sometime it doesn't, but the audience is appreciating.
We are used to listen. It's very simple. We are used to listen to the music. And there was a tango sextet. It was a tango band who said that they're incredibly successful in their home country, Argentina. If we come to Germany, we have to play it as difficult as we are able to. And the people love it.
Really? Well, that's
That's a way.
I think that's
but
awesome. That's awesome. That's the way it's supposed to be.
But with the other culture as well, where people go to festivals and it's just consuming music, and you don't see the artists that we have as
Yeah,
well.
because like I say, a lot of times in the States, if you get the chord, we have to be careful the way we play because you will lose your audience. If you're too creative.
Incredible for us.
Yeah, absolutely. Miles Davis used to say it best. He said, he hated playing in the United States because you can't play a certain way because most of those people, they'll leave.
Bobby, I think we have to have a beer later on when Bill is playing, and we have to go on talking. I'm having a look at the time, and we have to come to an end slowly.
Okay.
But thank you very much. It's so fascinating listening to you or talking to you, and I hate to do this, but there are some questions I always love to ask, and one of them is, what is so fascinating about the keyboard or the instruments you play? It's the B3 that's very special for you. I don't know what your favorite instrument is, but playing piano and playing something, what's so fascinating about doing this?
I love all of the keyboard instruments. When I was young, the piano, I realized that the piano only had one sound. So I love the piano, but I just realized it just only had one sound. It had many sounds. I learned how to play it using dynamics to get the different sounds, but it only had one sound. I gravitated to the organ because it was an orchestra. The organ had so many. It was like the original synthesizer. You can get this sound, you can get this sound. And then, so my 6th birthday, my father and my mother bought me a Hammond B3 organ. And everyone in
You like this?
everyone in my town, I'm from a small town, Corsicana, Texas. They talked about my parents. They were like, why would they buy this 5-year-old, this 6-year-old a Hammond organ, and it costs, almost $5,000 back in 1978? Why would they do that? Not knowing that if I was going to keep playing but my dad was like, I'm nothing without my parents. My parents, they did everything for me.
They knew what they were doing.
Yeah. And so, they knew I loved the instrument. So I played that organ every day. Then later on, I got into the synthesizers. My dad bought me a Yamaha DX7. So I got into that DX7, and I was still playing at church, and because that was mainly what I did. I played at church. So then I would play that DX7. Then later on, my daddy bought me a Korg M1. and I got into the whole synthesis process, and then out of that, came the other stuff. Then I started looking at all of the the sounds in the keyboard. The sounds in the keyboard, I would see clav patch, but I thought it was just a sound. I would see Moog, but I'm like, well, what is this? What is this sound? So later on in life, like when I was in high school, like 13, no, I was about 8th grade, I go over to my friend's house, they had records. Pull out the records. I see Herbie Hancock record you look on the back. It was like a music lesson. They would tell all the music. They would tell all the actual instruments they were playing. So you could look at a Herbie Hancock, George Duke record, be like Fender Rhodes. Well, I knew what that was. Hunter D6 clavinet, Mini Moog, Art Pro Soloist, Art Odyssey. And then so I'm like, well, what are these instruments? Like, what is this? So then eventually I started looking for all these instruments. And I would find these instruments, in pawn shops. And so I started buying them and I started using them. Didn't know how to use them. And then I felt like this. Then I stopped playing my Yamaha DX7 because like, okay, well, these are the real instruments. So I kind of got really connected to these instruments.
Sorry, I got the sign. We have to stop. I've got one last question. And you mentioned the word sound. Actually, there are two questions. The first question is it a sound that still gives you goosebumps? What is it?
The sound of these real instruments, the sound of the records is like, for me, I've loved the sounds of a Mini Moog. There's nothing that a Nord or anything can do. Nord synthesizers and the Yamaha, they're great, but it can never be a 9-foot Steinway or Bosendorfer or Fender Rhodes or Hammond B3 organ yet.
And the last one is silence. How important is silence for you in music or whatever?
Oh yeah, well, pretty much. When I silence, the greatest musician that uses silence is Pino Palladino. Pino Palladino is one of my favorite bass players, and the way he uses space, space, that's what makes him so funky. He's not just the bass player that goes blah, 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 blah. The way he uses space, boom, 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 boom.
Bobby Sparks, the second, with his new CD, Schizophrenia, out in March 2019. Thank you very much. It was fun talking to you, Bobby. And I learned a lot, and I've got so many questions. Thank you.
Thank you.